Welcome back to Rift Rivals, where G2 and Phoenix One are gearing up for their first match here on day 2. G2 got the win against Cloud9 yesterday, but showed some weaknesses in their first 2 games and showed some weaknesses that we have been seeing from them in the split, I would say. Trashy, was it more of a continuation for you, what you saw of G2 yesterday in that regard?
I think the biggest disappointment I saw from G2 was when they had the huge lead, they usually actually know how to close it out. I think in EU, the split, they have been pretty weak in the early game. They haven't really, and then they don't really know what to play to after that when they're behind. But being ahead, almost 10k gold, and then almost losing the game to C9, I thought that was
The worst thing.
Not the G2 I know.
That was the weirdest thing to me about G2, and even in their game against TSM, they actually held on to the point where it looked like they could turn it around, but it was the mid and late game that looked the shakiest for G2, and that had traditionally been their strength, at least in the spring. So that is something I think they can correct, but it has been a problem all summer split.
Yeah, but I think like before G2 became like a really good like late game team, a big issue with their late game was, Perks getting caught out. And I'm really mad at him because I have a personal relationship with Perks, and I'm calling him out because he's getting way too much caught.
He's getting caught too much.
That's the phrase I'm using, yes. And NA is bringing a lot more engaged than EU normally does. Like, they're bringing Kled very often and things like that. And maybe this throws you off for a game or two, but this should be done by now. Like, day 2, this should be like G2's clean closeout games if they get a lead.
Well, it'll be very important for him today because they're up against Phoenix One, and there's one player you know who we want to talk about. No, it's not Mike Young. It's Ryu, because in that matchup versus Perks, might be really interesting. Ryu has been putting up some good numbers also in the NALCS last week, so this is your...
But he's smiling.
He's smiling.
There's no real face.
I've never seen him
in the
smile.
building.
I think something.
What is happening?
This is what freedom does to you. It gives you that kind of smile. Because I've never seen him smile in those like 2 years. But no, I mean, I remember right when Ryu went over, I knew it would be kind of like a big shakeup. Kind of like when Bjergsen came over to NA, he shook up mid lane a lot. I think Ryu did that, a similar situation. And even in his interviews, they're asking him like, you know, how do you think of the NA mid laner so far? And he responds like, I haven't played against any good ones yet. It's like, so Ryu really hasn't changed much.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he's been pretty bad this split in North America. And he is one of those players that he could be feeding for 12 games in a row and then hard carry you to quarterfinals, as maybe he did in Worlds last year for H2K. Because yesterday was a game where he really stood up, and everyone likes to talk about Mike Young because he's been a rookie and he's come in and he makes some flashy plays. But as we saw there, Ryu had a 97% kill participation, even in the games they were losing. So he showed up in a huge way and was the main reason they won yesterday.
And that is the scary thing about Phoenix One. When Arrow comes back online, when Ryu comes back online with Mike Young, then they look pretty scary. And before the tournament, I would have said this was probably an easy victory for G2, but now it's quite close. So I'm going to ask you guys to call it. Trashy, G2 or Phoenix One?
I mean, I started out the segment by saying UL wouldn't have a chance.
Keep it rolling.
I would say P1 is gonna win.
Right?
I mean, I still don't know much about P1 because I feel like in these last 2 weeks of when they've actually shown some like good colors, so I think that's not enough for me to bet on them yet. If they had more, like, you know, more weeks of goodness, I'm gonna say G2.
Yeah, I would say G2 as well, man. People didn't think Phoenix One would win a game coming into this, and yes, they did win a game against UOL, who looked pretty poor yesterday. I still can't shake their poor performance from the spring split, so I have to go with G2 for this one. I think they're the favorites.
They'll have to show Jat that they are the real deal. Let's see if Phoenix One can take down the EULCS champions. Here are Dracos and the guys to get us into game.
Thank you, Shocks. We'll find out what Phoenix One can do here as we're moments away from picks and bans. So let's just jump right into those lineups with G2 on the blue side. In the top lane, it's going to be Expect. In the jungle, Tricks. Mid lane, Perks. AD carry Sven. Support, Mithy, and their coach, Youngbuck.
Wait, what was that again from Perks?
I thought he was going to go with like some Tryndamere thing or like
I thought it was like a Darien shout out. He used to always do like the Vladimir pose, but now I don't know, Perks kind of half did it.
He
just dropped it.
Wonderful now.
We'll never know.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, on the other side, we have Phoenix One in the top lane, Zig. In the jungle, Mike Young. Mid lane, Ryu. 80 carry Arrow, support Xpecial, and their coach, Fly. And these guys are serious, man.
All business.
They had to win.
Business.
They had to prove everyone wrong, including
Especially Jat.
Yeah, because Jat calls them out for their spring split performance without Mike Young and Xpecial in there.
Completely different team. Are you kidding me? They've got the rookie of the split now.
Mike Young.
It's a good name to say as well, Mike Young.
Honestly, though, I am wondering, where the bans are going to come through, because people talk a lot about, focusing actually Mike Young in the pick and ban phase. He is a relatively new player.
Kobe, are you in the ban Italy or leave Italy open both?
Does it really matter where Kobe's at?
It does matter where I am. Well, okay, it doesn't. It matters where G2 are, and they are definitely in the camp, as am I, of ban the Italy from Mike Young, just to make him do something else, right?
Yeah, obviously yesterday he's Lee Sin. He had a very nice KDA on it, but I actually think in the game, especially in the early game, he didn't perform that well. So I really agree also with Kobe and G2 Esports here in saying it's a best of one, just get rid of it.
Plus, you're on the blue side in this game. You basically get, extra target bans that you're allowed to use on blue side, rather than red side having to do the standard. Caitlyn and the Zach, maybe Elise will get through here, though.
Yeah, and I think Trick yesterday actually looked fine on it, despite it not being, one of his comfort picks. If you are G2 Esports, you had great success in the early game against C9 when you just spammed strong lanes with the Lees and you just ganked, and you actually look super, super good until we obviously hit that late game or early late game part. So I agree with this first pick from G2.
Definitely makes a lot of sense. At least locked in now. P1.
The EU counter.
Their choice of what is left. Still taking their time, debating on the Thresh. We'll see if it's something that X-Special wants to play. Had a solid performance on it yesterday.
Yeah, I even voted for him for player of the game. His Thresh was really, really strong. Constant picks from him, very accurate hooks. He was doing the mind games, flay one way that we actually just saw from Hillsong in the previous series and landing the hook on someone else. So going to get that one for him again.
I might just see G2 respond with Braum for Mythi, or maybe the Blitzcrank that we saw yesterday. He also had a good performance on it. Obviously another pick, most likely jungler coming in for P1. Graves is not a champion we see a lot right now. Lee Sin is available if Mike Young wants to play it. And he wants to play it.
It's generally his, next most played champion behind the Nidalee when that sees bans, fairly frequently. In solo queue, of course, it is his most played, and we did see yesterday, quite a few missed Sonic Waves, Q-spells here from Lee Sin, but he was still able to get the job done the majority of the time.
And pressure on him now to make an impact in the early game because Trick has already proved himself on that Elise yesterday and is now backed up with this Renekton on the top side of the map alongside the Blitzcrank. And P1 taking their time on this last pick in the first rotation.
I kind of feel like the decision is between going Klett or your mid lane pick and then pinching out Perks' champ pool.
And as you alluded to earlier on, this tournament has really been trending towards the early game. G2 Esports in this draft phase are really stocking up on early game pick potential here. Renekton, smashing lane. Blitzcrank loves to get that, vision control. Same thing with Elise here. So there are a lot of, early game powerhouse tools for G2 to use already.
Now, Cassiopeia being removed was one of the good matchups against Corki. There is another champion that some of the mid laners like against Corki. I'm going to trigger all the EU fans, but say Lucian mid lane for Perks is actually a fine matchup against the Corki. They already have AP from Elise in the jungle. It is a possibility, but...
I seem to remember him single-handedly ruining the European Lucian stats.
That's why I really don't know if he actually still wants to use it. Are you
telling me that game where he did nothing for 30 minutes and they won wasn't a great Lucian performance?
He was pushing minions.
I believe in second chances, though.
This would be like 4th or 5th chance, but that's fine too.
He also believes in 5th chances, Deficio. Don't doubt him.
You can also just go Orianna, which probably is safer for our good friend in the mid lane, Perks, but sometimes you just want to see a man go completely insane and bring back the Lucian to show that he can actually play it in game number 6.
Well, the Cassio, the LeBlanc taken away, Gnar and Kalista before bans, or that second ban phase. Little top lane, little 80 carry, but double mid from P1. They don't want to play those bad matchups. But not concerned about the Lucian.
Give me the Klett, Zeg. I want to see it last time. I actually thought G2 would ban that away once we saw the Corki, but they valued the Gnar ban above it.
Yeah, the Gnar ban, but even the Kalista ban as well, because they are kind of trying to deny this playmaking from the bottom side and the safety for Arrow and X-Special. Arrow has not had very good lane stats or even lane presence for a lot of the recent gameplay. However, on the Kalista, we saw him display before. Definitely was proficient.
And obviously one thing we actually see quite often against Thresh is you can just hook the Thresh and kill him, especially if you gank. Kalista would deny that, but mid lane pick, Orianna is a fine choice, but I just kind of want to see that Lucian from Perks. Just one last time.
Why here? Why can't you wait for EU LCS? Why do you want to see it in Red Rivals?
That's the moment he brings it out again, but it's going to be Oriana.
Well, I kind of agree with you, because the other thing about Oriana, you know, especially against Lee Sin and an early ganking Lee Sin, is that we have seen this matchup punished as well. Snowballing the Corki ahead, you know, and trying to punish that Oriana. Summoner's down, she becomes extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, Perks burned his hand too many times on the Lucian, though, and G2 Esports are trying to play.
Fifth chance, come on, man.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, man. They're like, no, we need some CC there, we need some safer lanes.
Gentlemen, if you had to guess what the one composition that G2 won with this tournament was, what do you think it might be?
Renekton, Elise, Oriana, Blitzcrank, Xayah.
It's exactly the same comp to Fischio.
Wow,
G2,
good
they're just
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I did my research.
The enemy team, though, they're playing something a little different. We've got a Kled this time around, the Twitch on the bottom side of the map. Still some scaling options for P1, but we've seen this show from G2 before, and it felt like it was all about Trick, really just showing up in the early game alongside Mythi on that Blitzcrank.
Exactly, and I think Mythi's going to have a great time. And you're not really afraid here of the Twitch in the bottom lane, and what we saw yesterday is when Blitzcrank and Elise win the early game and they get kind of unleashed on the map, it's almost impossible to play against, and this Twitch in the bottom lane is not going to stop them. Might be a lot about Ryu and contracts, and of course the Kled top lane.
That's exactly why I got so excited with the first 3 picks that G2 showed in their draft. As we said before, you know, the P1 bottom lane hasn't had a lot of in-lane pressure themselves to kind of keep the Blitzcrank tied down, so Mythi definitely will have options for roaming.
Well, this is your time, folks. Hashtag EU win, hashtag NA win. Maybe you believe in Mike Young, maybe you believe in G2 Esports. Either way, we're getting ready for our game 2.
What if you believe in P1? Is it only Mike Young?
Let me give you some things to believe in. Kled for Zig, his main champion. Mike Young, basically second main champion here. Lee Sin, most played There you go.
It's like the Nidalee when it's not fresh. You want to get excited. On the other side, Perks is Oriana. Something to get hyped for, the Xayah.
Honestly, though, Ryu as well has been something that, you know, people keep bringing up as being underperforming, but the Corki has been his, you know, most recent best performing champion. So as far as P1's perspective, they did get a lot of high value picks for themselves. It just does seem that it will be a little bit treacherous for them to navigate the early game.
And I really also think that it's worth highlighting that Ryu in Week 5 in NALCS actually played very well. Yes, of course, Week 1 to 4, not great. You deserve to call him out for that 100%. But Week 5, him and the rest of P1, again, they looked very good. So I'm not too surprised to see them actually do somewhat well. And Zig,
I don't think they saw this in the NALCS. Oh, just going to joust away.
He saw it. Always the classic Blitzcrank level 1s. You got to sneak around, see if you can find that one guy.
Bit unfortunate for his laning phase. May have wanted to start that bear trap on a rope. Forced to take a less than ideal skill, but a bit of time, traded for a bit of time.
And that actually is important versus the Renekton in this matchup. So we'll see what Expect can actually get done, because usually Zig just kind of likes to ride it out and CS fairly evenly with the Renekton early on. We'll see about that, though.
You might see P1 try the same start as C9 here, where you now actually have a ward place on the red buff, and you want to see if you can go in and steal away just like 1 or 2 Raptors to stop Trick from getting that 235 level 3.
So my policy now is stop at 1 Raptor. Steal 1,
yeah, get one,
get your ass out of there, because I've seen so many people die afterwards. They're like, oh, I got one. I'm going to get another one. I love stealing these Raptors. They're not going to get any,
That's the problem when you start winning, though. You just feel like you can keep going and you just keep winning, and that's sadly not how it works in the world.
Is that victory for you, Deficio? Is the single Raptor steal?
The single Raptor steal. It's like you have
greedy.
You know, you have
Stop your hand. Get out of that cookie jar, boy.
But that's one more.
Every game he queues up. Makes it to a minute 55. Satisfaction.
Yeah, I just need the 1 Raptor and I'm done for the game.
Now, though, we got to keep our eyes on the laning phase. Twitch, I mentioned earlier, maybe not something to be so scared of. The missing, not connecting the hook, not going to be the great start that they wanted, and should be pretty calm in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and people talk about, oh yeah, you can do mind games for watching which way people, you know, dodge. But Blitzcrank Mana Pool is actually one of the resources you do need to keep your eyes on for the laning phase here. So he might hold on to it for a bit longer. Wait till it gets back up to a decent level here.
I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, Blitzcrank would have like 2 hooks in his mana pool.
Things are better.
That was about it, you know.
Yeah.
Changed a little bit ever since. Not as bad for the Blitzcrank, but back then it was truly an all-in champion for level 1 and level 2. We actually do see Mythi. He played this Blitzcrank yesterday, and when G2 started struggling. We saw them, not be able to set up Baron Vision. It was Mithy who, in the late game, managed to catch Sneaky, get the team back in. They got Elder Drake and everything. And
that's the important stat right there, right there on
that's
the right-hand
the one
side.
hook, yeah.
I don't know how we quantify that stat, but he had one game-saving hook.
In the Eagles, yes, we just make up numbers. It doesn't matter, just believe us.
Mike Young going in for the invade here, and even though he is on a ward, this is kind of the expected Krug steal. And you would expect a mirrored move from Trick as well up on the top side. You can see with a pushing bottom lane, it does make it a lot less dangerous for him to do that as well. They have G2 pinned under the turret, so no chance of him getting caught out or burning anything.
Yeah, and what we're going to see in the early game, whenever there's Renekton and Elise, the enemy top lane is kind of stuck under his tower. It's really hard to do a whole lot against this combination. Luckily for Kled, you do have the Skull to kind of protect you for that early dive, and Trick is just going to be fine with some Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be more than fine, right? This is a big camp to steal away because Mike Young didn't start there. He's not even going to get any of the respawn timer there. But mid lane is going to be the target, Special and Mike Young. Perkz should know because they saw Mike Young on the ward down bottom.
Perkz now backing off, playing it safe here. Maybe can win the trade with Ryu, but knows he can't win the trade with Mike Young as well. Now looking for the fancy footwork. Will dodge the Sonic Wave. And that walkout casually means it's pure advantage over the jungle and Trick.
Trick now actually with Expect. Hopping around the jungle, they are seeing Mike Young on this ward here.
Yeah, I would expect him to stay in here. He has vision control, he has the level lead, pretty much full control of Mike.
Oh, leaps right into that cocoon. Now Trick laying down a bit of damage. Mike Young, where can you go? Flash out to safety, goes up, comes down, and that's going to be first blood for Trick.
Huge here for Trick to take over the jungle, catch Mike Young as he greedily tries to go back into his own territory after giving up his position.
Perfect start for Trick, because again, he's also waiting for Expect to kind of hit level 6 and then go for maybe a play against the Kled. With this Elise here, so the fact you can even get a kill in the early game without ganking because you're just sitting in the enemy jungle already with the level advantage before the fight even starts. Then he picks up the kill against Mike Young, gets the flash at the same time. Trick didn't have to use any summoners. Very easy kill for him, and very important for G2 Esports that they kind of do what we saw yesterday with this early game composition to really start snowballing.
And this is insanely scary. The Elise has an extra camp on you, so level advantage already there, plus the first blood money, plus flash advantage. This is dream town for Elise. She should just take over the game. Bottom lane is their next objective.
Special and Arrow, gonna knock him up, waiting for that rocket grab from Mithy. Where can Special go? He's already flashed, dodges the cocoon. Does he have enough fancy footwork? Pulls him back into the tower. Mithy now in trouble, has to flash out to safety. TP coming in on the backside. P1 want to keep this fight going. They are unafraid. In goes Zig. That's the bear trap onto the road. Mithy gonna get pulled back. The mana barrier buying a bit of time, but that's the kill for Arrow. Suddenly G2 at a disadvantage.
This is gonna see G2 pushing in the top side though. Expect never even channeled his teleport to even come down to the bottom side, so this wave gets pushed into top side. Zig will be missing this CS, this experience. On top of that, he did not get the kill, so he doesn't have that gold either. And Renekton into Kled already. Renekton advantage, so Zig might have a hard time coming forward.
Let's see the replay again. Mithy's hook is ready. He's just waiting for the flash from Special to then pull him right back in. Gets the flash right there, and then I don't know why he keeps waiting. At this point here, you could just easily hook him in and actually secure that one kill, and then suddenly Mike Young shows up and surprises them, and the hook ends up missing from Mithy right there. I think he waited too long, and then Zig obviously responding with that TP. I think, as you said, Kobe, like G2 is calling, don't TP with it. If you lose one guy, you're going to get a big advantage top anyway. We can now go up top lane and actually look, for a play on this under-leveled or one slightly under-leveled Kled.
This does mean that G2 are going to get their hands on the Ocean Drake. Happy to have it in the early game. But when we talk about Phoenix 1, so often we look at Mike Young. Now we're looking at Ryu a little more, and one man we cannot discount is Special in the early game. You saw him flaying Mithy back into the tower in that last play.
Oh, mid lane.
Have to respect the fight.
All right, we actually are going to have a few more members coming down the river here towards mid lane. Zig sometimes does want to use his early Kled ultimates for the extra pressure, but because Perkz is backing off, they can't be sure if they've walked over Vision, which they had here at the top of the river, so they don't want to kind of overextend again, since they've already done that once in this game, and G2 with a pretty sizable punish.
Yeah, we're in that situation now where P1 in the two side lanes have, remember, missing flash against fairly easy CC from G2's bottom lane, or they're instant stun from a Renekton top lane. Rio's under pressure mid as well, but right now Trick should be able to find a kill in one of these two side lanes with Elise, either with the Blitzcrank or with the Renekton. We need to see just the one play from him that gets G2 a bit more gold.
And you look at it across the board, CS advantages in every single lane for G2 right now. This early game is going so well for them.
Yeah, Perk's able to clear out wards around mid lane so that none of that early pressure was there to get Ryu rolling, none of that assistance, and as you said, Trick is really set up to have a very big influence on this game, even with the bottom lane being turned around like that. You have to be careful of the package, though.
Kobe, as a jungler, do you like the fact that Trick did not go for early boots? He just had enough gold to completely upgrade his jungle item. Actually, talk about after.
That thought. Leap forward. Cocoon going to interrupt Ryu immediately. Perk's now walking back into the fight. Kick back, but not going to find the knockup. Now Perk's potentially in trouble. Ryu looking for the outplay. Up goes Elise. She has to come down. Kled is on the way. Oh! Now leaping up. Perk's running for his life. Shield. Mike Young with the auto. P1 now on top. Expect. Could get caught between three here, but at the end of the day, that's just the play for P1.
And he hits the sonic waves that matter here in the comeback. Phoenix won, and this time, this is not Mike Young getting Ryu going. Ryu here with his package, charging in, face tanking, and getting that extra kill.
And that play was so important from P1 because we just talked about how Trick had two lanes you could go to for very easy ganks. The fact that P1 then finds a fight here against Perks in the mid lane with the package from Ryu, wins the 2v2 skirmish because Perks is so low from the get-go, and Trick, of course, taking so much damage from this Corki here, simply means now that Trick can't really go to any of these lanes that's missing a flash because he just died and they gave 2 kills over to P1. So huge, huge fight for them.
And to the point that you were about to bring up there, where you're talking about the boots on Elise, not only even not getting boots, but sometimes we'll see early Moby boots. Currently in the bottom lane, good trade here.
Way back, Featherstorm comes out, gonna bring the blades back in, and Xpecial now in trouble. Exhaust is wearing off. Xpecial is running for his life, and Arrow is all alone, but still willing to extend the trade, still trying to keep it going, because Mike Young is here. Blade back, taken out, and out of nowhere, the Lee Sin comes in again.
So they start this trade way ahead of time. Okay, Trick on the top side wants to dismount Zig.
No chance to talk. He's gonna sidestep the Cocoon. Bear Trap on a rope, not gonna connect, but the pocket pistol takes him to safety.
Also in that, little gank there by a Trick, sometimes I would save the Cocoon, go for your Q first so that you dismount him, then you can Cocoon after he's already been dismounted. Ryu, though, has double buff, so
yeah, that's going to be rough.
Be a bit more careful.
That's a bit of burn, starting to tick him down, but P1 coming in with so many clutch kills, and first tower is going to drop in their favor as well, racing that Renekton and Elise on the top side, but still getting the advantage.
And it's Mike Young again on Lee Sin showing up for a counter gank. G2 Esports, the bot lane was fighting despite Trick being top lane. Ryu might get knocked back here and see if Mitty can get it something. He actually wanted Ryu to instantly Valk, so you just try and then keep him in place, but Ryu obviously just saving that cooldown until later. But bot lane, they're fighting now, despite their jungler being topside, so they really gotta feel confident they're winning this fight early.
Yeah, Phoenix won. They have Mike Young on the Gromp, and they make the call for him to come down. He is going to have to flash to get into this play, but look at the flash into W and kill here for Mike Young, and then they barely win this first turret gold race as well. So, showing up very big after the early jungle game went awry for Mike Young.
Oh, Arrow getting aggressive, Perk's in trouble. Out comes the spray and pray. Ryu trying to throw down the big one. That's another kill for P1.
Classic move with the Twitch here. Once you are unleashed, you can just start roaming into these lanes here. No flash from Perks after losing that last fight near the blue buff. Very easy kill for P1 in mid. And they're actually doing what they did yesterday. Once they get a small advantage, they're doing a great job at snowballing.
He's going to have a very hard time getting out of this one.
3 members strong. Sven running for his life. No cooldown on the Featherstorm, and that's a dead Xayah.
3 kills now on Arrow on this Twitch. Very, very efficient moves from him after the bottom lane, push onto that turret, and he just got a huge influx of gold.
And we see the CS still not great, but it just doesn't matter. They're killing people. They're not worried about minions. They're farming champions right now, Kobe, and they're making it look pretty easy. Mike Young is everywhere that he needs to be, and the team playing so well around these collapses.
Let's see if they can keep getting something now, because they got some wards in that bot lane jungle, bot side jungle, and if Sven shows up again overextending, might be another easy kill for them. And that's kind of been the story of the game here. Despite G2 with the strong early game draft, P1 has just outplayed them.
Yeah, definitely the case so far, because we talked about, this team is going to love to work with Fog of War, going to love to work with an early game lead. They have Elise and Blitzcrank, and they're going to be roaming, and they have Renekton pushing.
CC, no flashes. You know, this is heaven for Elise.
Yeah, not the case though, because a very good recovery by Phoenix One, as you mentioned. G2 back out onto the field to grab an objective for themselves though. Rift Hero does take a while, and Xpecial and Mike Young are in the area, but I don't believe they think that they're actually on it though. Even though they have wards surrounding it.
Ward over the wall will spot Expect. They know that he's hitting something. Must be the Rift Herald.
Late.
He's going to take it down, but Mike Young is on the way. Zig is on the way as well. Can they block them off the Eye of the Herald? And it looks like they just might. P1 can't deny the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can't pick up the Eye.
Oh, Shockwave hitting multiple members. Zig, though, leaping into the backline. Expect cannot peel enough for the team, but Mike Young is in trouble. He's dropping lower, and Trick is going to grab that kill. Suddenly, Zig, he's in no man land either. Out comes the Featherstorm, brings it back, roots him down, but Sven, he can't save himself, and that's Arrow on a rampage.
Yeah, Arrow just went back, got his Blade of the Ruined King, joining this fight with ulti. 4 kills for him now, and P1, they just saw the Rift Herald die in the end. They didn't stop it, but they got some kills. Ryu, he wants more.
Not able to interrupt it in that last 0.05 seconds. But Phoenix One, absolutely big punish here because there are no flashes on the carries of G2. Perks is roaming up to help, and they're lending support, but Phoenix One are bringing everyone here, and they have to respect the charge from Zig. They immediately go on the chase.
I think this Kled here, once again, working out so well for one of the North American teams, because he's just diving straight in the backline, knows, okay, I'm safe enough with Skull, and he's able now to set up Arrow and Ryu. You can see the 2 carries from P1 just coming in, completely untouched at the start of the fight, able to just unleash all the damage.
Yeah, we talk about, the carries for G2
didn't pick it up.
Didn't have their flashes. Yeah, they had no chance. They got run off that very early.
And the thing you got to notice, too, Mike Young kicked him away from the Rift Herald as he was channeling the pickup. That doesn't take long to pick up, so P1 are just one step ahead.
Yeah, Arrow flashing over the wall offensively in that last fight as well, should be pointed out. Blade of the Ruined King completed on him now, and Drake under fire.
And now it doesn't matter now if you have, the early game or lane advantage, because suddenly with items coming in favor of P1, because they just have more gold, this Twitch here with Blade the Ruined King is going to be stronger than the Xayah. The 2v2 lane is suddenly just fine, maybe even better for P1 after all these early kills, and now they even get Drakes in mid tower.
And it's not even just Arrow, right? Ryu is going to have his Trinity Force completed very quickly on this Corki, and he's going to be a very big problem as well.
And that's even a delayed Trinity Force because of a Hexdrinker coming in and him upgrading the boots. So he's actually sitting on so much gold that he's still getting it just around, should we say now, when he goes back about 16, 17 minutes, he's going to get that Trinity Force. And yeah, P1 with 2 Drakes, early advantage. They don't care about Renekton and Elise anymore.
And we see G2 grouping up, trying to get down a bit of vision, trying to get control back over this game. But I don't think anybody expected P1 to play this well. We look at week 5 of NALCS, P1 looked great, but we didn't think that would transition so cleanly to international competition against the top teams in Europe. But
Trashy did. He believed in Mike.
He called it.
Called it there. All right, let's see if they get this push on the top side, though, because G2 are, swinging up some defensive, and Arrow with the red buff, he might get a little over-aggressive if they stay in the Fog of War here and try and bait him in.
And with all the control wards by G2, they're looking for that one catch that we see with Blitzcrank Elise so often. Tends to work a lot better when you're the one winning, so you're getting like deep vision in the enemy jungle, and you're kind of hiding around every single corner. It's not a combination that's too strong if you are very far behind, because in a team fight, it's kind of minimal what Blitzcrank will offer or Elise will offer to your team.
G2 now grouped around the mid lane, but you bring up Vision and P1. Absolute control over the bottom side of that map. But Mithy, he's looking for that hook. Bout comes out, hook goes wide. Nice sidestep from Ryu, and G2 honestly just grasping at straws, looking for anything they can get their hands on.
We have to remember Ryu trained against Mad Life in his prime. So when he sees a Blitzcrank, he knows what to do. Yeah, I'm going to juke to one side first, and then I know I'm going to sidestep instantly. And Mithy, still not Mad Life level. In his prime, worth adding. Mad Life right now, probably not better than Mithy.
I mean, Mad Life is currently in North America, so...
Exactly.
Sure
Mithy probably...
now.
Now is the prime, okay.
Is that what we decided based on every time?
He's training currently in the region that gave birth to Mike Young, okay?
Ooh.
All right, let's take a look at Arrow here, because we talked about possibilities of getting over aggressive with Twitch when you do have successful early game. Sometimes this can go to your head. Deficio has played a bunch of Twitch. He knows exactly what you're talking about.
Some people call me a one-trick, but I will let people know I'm a two-trick now. I also play Corki mid lane.
Splitting your time, eh? The dual role threat. I love it.
I'm keeping it legit, so my team can always count on me if those two champions are available.
Count on Division.
Only if those two champions are available.
Ban, and I'm
Ban both. He just has to leave. He has to leave. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to queue up again, folks. No
Arrow doesn't have to leave, though. 4 kills on the Twitch. Going to get some solo turret gold for himself as well. And now we're going to see the vision creep into G2 territory. So those things you're talking about before, Divicio, where they have Elise and Blitzcrank and Renekton, these things are falling off. They don't have the vision to work with. And Phoenix One are going to have a lot easier time seeing some of those plays coming.
P1 just happy to pressure out the mid lane, happy to take these advantages where they can get them. Pressure on the top side as well. Only Sven alone to push out the bottom side, and now Zig, he's running forward. Mike Young, he's kicking back the competition. Expect just getting the chain CC brought on. The hook connects as well, and that's one Renekton who is not going to survive. P1 set to take that tier 2.
A great use of the advantage. Perks trying to get some damage onto P1.
Flash comes out from the hook. Trick doing what he can to hold on. Clears the wave with the shockwave. And that means that G2 will at least hold on to the tower, but still starting to fall behind in gold.
Love that setup, though, from P1. It's every single member actually playing well here. Mike Young and Zig coming in behind the Renekton, and then Xpecial setting up the flame to hook to take down the big crocodile, and suddenly P1 getting another kill. Didn't get the tower because of Perks' shockwave, but at this point it's just a matter of time before they get even more structures, and then we're just waiting for Baron setup to kind of be the big one for P1 to close out the game.
Yeah, you could see the pings coming down beforehand from Phoenix One. Phoenix One had really perfect vision because they had just seen the rest of the members of G2. So even though this is the tankiest member, they know 5 versus 1 will take those odds and will be able to clean up this kill on the Renekton before defenses arrive. That being said, you know, G2, after the defenses arise, they are able to kind of stop the losses there at just 1 kill and defend their turret.
Yeah, but now because G2 got caught so many times and lost so many early fights against P1, they now find them in a situation where you are forced to farm 3 lanes because you have like Renekton, Orianna, Xayah. They all need gold to be useful. But you can't really do that because some of the lanes are always going to get pushed down by P1. And if you are sitting in the opposite lane as an AD carry, well, your top laner is dead. Your top tower is dead. Your inhibitor might fall very quickly. So you're just in that terrible situation where you can't get the resources you need.
And what makes it even more difficult trying to get those resources, I love what I'm seeing from Phoenix One. 5 control wards in an inventory of every single player. They are going to light up the jungle. So even transitioning from lane to lane becomes difficult and inefficient in trying to get the lane farm. Not to mention the jungle farm will be completely taken over.
And Kobe, you can see, not only do they have those control wards in the inventory, they have control wards already all over the jungle. Vision is everywhere for P1. It doesn't feel like there's any safe place for G2 to stand right now. Perks farming his own Raptors. P1 know about it. They have a ward in that pit. These guys are ready to make a play.
I see you farming those Raptors. What do you think you're doing?
Can't even get your own jungle camps. So luckily Orianna can almost one-shot the small ones, if not fully one-shot them.
Still get them, but they can see them.
Big one stays alive. Ryu with the package. Looking for something. What is he looking for?
Spider, I believe.
Is he looking for the spider?
Well, that's a good question. What do P1 need at this point? What is going to extend the lead next?
They want Baron so badly.
Well, the Mountain Drake will mean they'll have double Mountain Drakes. So this is a tremendous amount of pressure around the Baron. Talk about all those control wards. They're slowly moving them already, and they just want to keep vision around this area. After double Mountain Drakes, it becomes a game of, okay, we got to face check into Thresh here, and Ryu has package right now. Oh, the Scuttle Crab is actually big. The face checking no longer, quite necessary. We'll see if they actually get out of this one, though. Phoenix One roaming up.
Package used. Perks potentially in trouble. Keep your eyes on Xpecial because the charge is coming in. Zig now attached. They're looking to kick him back to the wall. Perks doesn't even get to push any buttons. No chance to respond.
Same kind of play again from P1 where every single member is just ready to go all in, and Zig with the Kled ulti able to speed up some of the other guys on his team to catch Perks. So Youngmark doesn't even want to watch the game anymore. He's just looking away.
Pulled back, hooked in. This is going to be disastrous for G2. The Featherstorm Sven dishing out as much damage as he can, but he cannot compete with that spray and pray, and now it's barren in the eyes of P1.
2 members down for G2, double Mountain Drakes for Phoenix One. They should be able to melt this, even with Scuttle Crab, even with this vision. Not really a big case here, unless Trick runs over very quickly, flashes, and maybe sacrifices himself. He could go for the hero play.
Oh, he's willing to get it, not gonna. Whoa!
They got him here!
Way too late. Oh, the itsy bitsy spider.
Surprise!
Not gonna make it out, and now P1, if there was any doubt after that early game, they are in absolute control now.
Well, Expect got a ward, so that's 10 gold. Small win.
You're holding on hope.
Count your blessings, my friend. The silver lining is there.
So have I mentioned that I'm North American? Did I bring that up yet?
As soon as you get a chance, stabs us in the back.
It's looking a little grim, Deficio. It's looking a little grim.
Yeah, a little bit. I think G2 continuing the trend of not looking great at all, which has been kind of the story the last 5 weeks of G2's
and it's
story.
It is honestly important for Phoenix One. Phoenix One have been having a very rough restart to this split. They had to make multiple roster changes. They were working through many different junglers, many different supports. They really weren't able to find a configuration that did work, and then they had to sacrifice more time to come up to Rift Rivals. You know, they left right after LCS on the Sunday, traveled over to get some extra practice. The dedication these guys are showing to improving is really heartwarming, that it's actually paying off for them, because this is definitely a better looking Phoenix One, and they'll be stronger when they head back to North America and can kind of take these winnings home.
And not just the dedication, but the pace, Kobe, at which they've improved. The Week 5, amazing. Now the performances on Rift Rivals get better and better. The NA hopeful. But now,
the crowd agrees.
At this point, P1, they're going to take the free towers. G2 cannot hold these. Really no options to hold onto the tier 2s. It's going to be about defending those inhibitors, and the gold lead just gets bigger and bigger. 10K.
You're 23
done.
Minutes in. You are done. You are completely done. Your entire comp had so many ways of winning the early game, and you got outplayed. You messed it up. You overextended. You died. You lost fights. So P1 have just been getting further and further ahead in this game simply because they did all the work in the early game that allowed their composition with this super fed Twitch and the fed Corki in the mid lane to say we can win every fight. We have the mobility as well from this Kled, and they just do it so well. Actually, P1 are playing this game really well.
All right, your speech was a little bit more depressing. All right, here we go, though. I expect
so they definitely be in trouble. Dismounted and dropped. G2. That's going to make it a lot easier to survive this last minute of the Baron buff.
Always the caster curse.
Well done, Deficio. Well done.
Every time.
I was about to say, hey, if you look at P1 the first couple weeks, you'd say, well, 10K gold lead, not confident they can end this game. But you look at them the last few times, they're pretty good. They're reliably closing out, and now we just need to see clean play. But G2, they're not giving up easy.
They're not, but for now, it's hard for them to defend against the double Mountain Drake as well. Infernal coming up, so can't really fault P1 for saying, let's wait for that one to spawn, get another big Drake here when P1 is already so far ahead. And they should be able to secure then another Baron if they keep waiting and then use that to actually get inside the base of G2.
All right, well, let's discuss one of these topics that is pretty interesting, you know, especially between North America and Europe, is the Kled. And a lot does surround this, and people have been talking about, oh, you know, Perkz was caught out a lot in the mid-game, something probably brought up on the analyst desk, and, you know, the prevalence of Kled and these hard engage that a lot of the North American teams are bringing, it seems to be catching him a bit off guard. Arrow as well on the Twitch with a lot of really good surprise assassinations early on in this game. So basically the frequency and the effectiveness of these you know, mid-game picks have been very, very huge and really felt in getting the game to where it is right now, only, you know, 25.5 minutes in.
And it's interesting, too, because when we first saw Kled come out, he had no place in a tank meta where teams were grouped up and a tank just body blocks that ultimate. But now with these more aggressive bruiser kind of tops, it feels like he just slots in so well with what teams like Phoenix One want to do. But now it's about closing out. It's not about finding those picks. It's about forcing these inhibitors, at least for now. Baron's still very far off, but as you mentioned, the Infernal Drake close at hand, and P1 may find it a pretty easy objective to take.
Should definitely be fairly easy for them. We're kind of looking for a little bit of a random trap setup from G2 to kind of get back in the game at the moment, because sometimes you have to actually rely on enemy mistakes when you fall this far behind. And again, you do have a Blitzcrank. You always got to respect that. Let's say Arrow is overextending. He gets caught. He dies. We just saw Zig die before. All these things kind of buy a little bit of time for G2 Esports to try and get a few more items under their belt, but so much is just based around P1 then overextending and actually making the mistake in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been in this scenario before, right? When it depends on the enemy team kind of presenting you an opportunity. Yes, G2, if you try and count, you know, how are they going to come back? Well, never mind, we have a bit of an
Person going to burn Flash. Not what they wanted for the comeback. Arrow going to throw down a bit of damage. But That's not going to be how they do it. But let's talk about how they can do it. What are the options?
Kind of starts with, as the visual was mentioning, kind of a pocket of Fog of War or area to surprise with a Blitzcrank or an Elise, you know, these pick abilities. The problem is that the zone on the map for them to do that is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking as Phoenix One are kind of starving them out from the rest of the map. So the opportunities to surprise become less and less, and Phoenix One, it becomes much more easy for them, you know, to play safe and keep up their lead.
Yeah, another choice or option for G2 is hope that P1 maybe doesn't execute the Baron properly and see if you can steal the Baron, or maybe if you can catch them with a shockwave inside the Baron pit. So what they're doing now is, before Baron even spawns, they're setting up a lot of vision around it and then see if maybe they can catch P1. Mike Young is going in there, so that's a guy.
Oh, kick back. Oh, still gonna get pulled back in. Mike Young now in trouble, knocked up, but Zig is on the way to the back line. You may be keeping your eyes on Mike Young, but you need to watch that Kled, because he's gonna try to find a kill onto Mithy, but Mike Young is still alive! Ryu now on a rampage. The Lee Sin getting out by the skin of his teeth, and G2, they're just gonna get routed.
Oh man, yeah, you better keep your eyes on Mike Young, because he was all over the place in that little skirmish. Does end up getting out alive afterwards too. He did not hesitate. As soon as he saw Mithy, he's like, yeah, they're probably all here. And instantly goes for the kickback on him, trying to ensure a kill for his team rather than trying to run away.
Now Ryu flashing forward, looking for the outplay onto Perks. Gonna miss a few skill shots, and Perks doing what he can with the fancy footwork, but Ryu's just playing with his food, because now P1 are breaking into the base. They're extending this gold lead even further. They got their sights set on 2 inhibitors, and with 5 members, G2 cannot take down Mike Young. I think that is the best death sentence I have heard of.
And Zig just walks away. Mithy is trying to chase, but side of him, Blitzcrank W got changed a little bit, but
yeah, ran out of gas.
Zig is out of there, and Baron is now spawning, and P1 are instantly on it. So G2 tried that one little play. They're like, okay, we gotta try something. Let's hope Mike Young is alone here. We maybe kill him. Baron spawns, but it's just Trick finding Special right now, and Trick is kind of all alone.
Yeah, not gonna get a chance. The chain CC comes in. Down goes the jungler. Arrow is godlike, and P1.
I know that feeling on Twitch.
Sure, buddy.
Every game. Every game.
Oh, let's take another look at it and do track Mike Young, because he goes in a full circle here, all the way around the red jungle. Flashes, then goes over to the blast cone, and if you watch Trick, he tries to chase him this whole time too. Repels over afterwards. You know, Mike did use his smite and kill off the red, so he continues jungling while he's running around through this little fight. And during that time, Arrow and Ryu, these 2 fed AD carries, are just dishing out the damage. We get multiple kills for the team and allow Phoenix One to chase down.
And Ryu, a man who's been getting honestly destroyed so frequently, but it feels like every time he finds that pick, once per season that he is successful on, something that he can really execute on, it has been this Corki, and you can see in day 1, similar story.
Yeah, I love the fact that yesterday he was just involved in like every single kill. This kill participation you see in the middle was actually 100%. If we look just like at before 15 minutes, this is the entire game. So sadly he missed out on like 1 kill in the entire game here. And he's been doing, well again, Mithy, he's dead.
Mike Young moving forward. Sven trying to get back what he can. Meanwhile, the top laners are dishing it out in that 1-for-1, but spray and pray coming in. The root going in as well, just to stop Arrow from taking anything else. It is a battle for survival here on the side of G2, but the remount not going to come in time. Expect. They have saved his team in the end, but triple inhibitors stacked up against G2 and P1. Just dishing out so much damage. Cocoon's not connecting. Hook's not connecting. Not enough damage.
Woo!
But that's not a problem for the Corki. And now...
Yeah, you know that feeling too, huh, Deficient?
Yeah, exactly.
The big crits. All right, Phoenix One.
Little
left to do here with the Baron buff. Couple of Nexus turrets standing between them and their 2nd victory at MS. At Rift Rivals. There we go.
Back in
Tournament. League of Legends tournament.
They're doing what they can, Kobe, on the side of G2. They're doing what they can. But it's just not, it's not enough. Arrow is too strong. Ryu is too strong. You have 2 AD carries just so far ahead of the competition. There is not enough damage on the side of G2. The TP is coming in to keep the minion healthy, to keep P1 on that Nexus, and this very well could be the end.
Oh, they're gonna get that last tower. They want some kills.
Kick back style play coming in from Mike Young. Can G2 kill him? Doesn't look like they're gonna get it, but Zig now pulled in the fountain, stunned up at the D-mount. Means the aggro's gonna swap, and Ryu just going in for the disrespect. Phoenix One taking down the 1st place seed from Europe.
And I mean, it's kind of surprising at this point that G2 keeps finding a new way to kind of disappoint. when you're watching them, because yesterday when that early game comp, they did well early on, then they couldn't set up Baron plays. This game, that exact same composition, exactly the same one, and they got completely outplayed by P1 in the early game, so they didn't even get to the point where they could actually start snowballing this composition. And the fact that P1 are playing so well, starting from week 5 in NALCS into this Rift Rivals tournament here, is super impressive with this new lineup.
And the fact, really, you know, to kind of inspire more confidence in this team, is that they started out with an early deficit. You know, Trick had a very good early start to this game. Gets the first blood on Mike Young, gets the counter jungle on Mike Young, but he stays proactive. They make so many different counter plays, both sides of the map, and are able to really turn it into another kind of one-sided game.
And we obviously, again, we keep talking about Mike Young all the time. Like, he lost his Nidalee in this game, picked Elise in his second best champion, and played much better than we saw in the early game yesterday. He was
Ryu
everywhere.
And Arrow.
And Ryu and Arrow as well, playing well. You know, Xpecial was a man we highlighted from yesterday's game. Like, all these guys are suddenly actually playing really well from P1. And I'm just so surprised that, you know, Mike Young comes in out of nowhere. Every other NA team is kind of probably thinking, like, where did this guy come from? How did they get him first? You know, this is an NA player, so they don't need to use like an import slot on him. Like, he's gonna be so valuable in the future for these teams who are trying to obviously get the best rosters possible. And P1 have found a good mix right now.
Yeah, P1 definitely have. Well, Phoenix 1 got the win here against G2. Our analysts are standing by for a closer look.
Well then, will Phoenix 1 win Worlds?
Probably.
Probably. I mean, they're probably the favorite at this point.
They're on a roll. Like, we can't deny that. Absolutely taking out the champions of Europe. Like,
Trashy. He called it.
Yeah, you did actually. You did.
Yeah.
I actually had a chat with Perks yesterday after their games, and he said that I asked him, so how's it going? Like, what is happening tomorrow, which is now today? And he said he doesn't really know. We will have to see. He said he can't promise me anything. So for me, it was obvious.
For you, it was obvious. They can promise anything.
I can't promise anything either. They're screwed.
But probably as a coach,
done.
probably as a coach of a successful team,
Yes.
that's definitely true. G2 is a team that used to play for the perfect game and used to have all these good things, and now they can't even seem to put a good or consistent early game together. Might that just be a crisis of everyone's, like, the way they play the game? How do you deal with that for G2?
I don't know. I mean, because the early game first 5 minutes looked okay. Like, Trick, I think, predicted Mike Young's pathing. I think he had a really good invade, got first blood off of that. But then after this, like, first 5 minutes, when they have to, you know, now you don't know where jungler is because it's going to be, like, new routes and, like, buffs are coming up and stuff. Then there was, like, no plan, really. They're kind of like, oh, blue buff's up. Let's go, like, take blue buff, or let's go here. And there wasn't any, like, cohesive, like, all right, we're all going to, like, go bot right now, or we're all going to go snowball this. And when you play Renekton and Elise, you gotta get that lane ahead, man. Yeah,
Zig sitting at 0-0-3 50 minutes into the game is a win for P1. And I know there's all this hype about, you know, Mike Young, but I want to talk about the roster changes Phoenix 1 has undergone in the past 3 months. They've been through 4 different supports, and they're on their 3rd jungler. So I feel like it's actually really clicking now with Xpecial and Mike Young, and that's now letting us see the Ryu and Arrow we've been waiting for, right? Arrow and Ryu have been actually really good this tournament. Arrow late game carried. Ryu, one of the big reasons they were able to win this game with his Corki in the mid lane. So, I mean, Phoenix 1 was a 3rd place team in spring, even if they've been a last place team for most of summer. So maybe they're starting to turn it on. This is still a little bit, you know, I'm a little bit flabbergasted, but they're now 2-1.
This is a good advantage, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how do you prepare for P1 when they're, like, losing all these games and they haven't really shown a style yet? Like, last week when they played Immortals, they look good. But it's like you have one game. You're going to have all your information off of, like,
well, actually, it's actually the inverse of what we keep saying about G2, because with G2, for the last couple of weeks, we've been like, when are they going to get to their level again? Surely they will get to their level again, or will they? And for Phoenix 1, is it, will they keep playing at this level? What's going on here? So I think this game must be a big indicator. They had some really good moves. They also turned around an early fight to get the ball rolling against G2. We're going to take a look at that replay brought to you by Acer. So was this good by P1, or did G2 drop the ball?
I think one thing we can praise P1 for this game was whenever they decided to take the fight, they were decisive and really fought it out. Like, in this situation, they actually had a disadvantage in items, but because they took the fight and because Ryu had no magic mantle and could tank up the Elise damage, they actually were able to win the fight. So props to P1 on taking the fights.
Not to mention Perks was down Shockwave and also had just cleared a control ward while Ryu was back in base to get the package. So the window in time with which to make a play was really small, and like you said, they were very decisive in doing so.
And it kind of translated throughout the game that whenever P1 had the opportunity to take the fight, they were all committing for the fight, and maybe that threw G2 off a bit.
Must have. Phoenix One just seeming very confident. Also, the Kled pick for Zig really working out. It's something that has seen not as big of a priority, I would say, in EU as it has in NA. And you guys were discussing how he does play it in a very interesting way as well, especially with the charge and the ultimate and its positioning of it specifically.
I mean, I think this fight's different.
Not this fight.
As other fights. But I noticed a lot of times, like, Zig just ults behind the enemy team on Kled, when normally I see Kled just, ult the one target that you want to get to. But yeah, Zig doesn't even try to hit it. He just gets all the way behind the enemy team. I thought that was a pretty interesting way to use to Kled ult. Yeah,
usually using it to cut off an escape path rather than to just charge right into someone. Or if they do run away, that's when you get to see them charge into right some. Some of these fights are a little bit ridiculous. I mean,
Mike Young
trying to figure out why he's kicking Mithy back there. Just sees a Blitzcrank, immediately goes for the Insect, and then doesn't die in this fight, which you know is the nail in the coffin. Yeah, I mean, of course he gets the red buff. He's Mike Young. What do you expect?
You shouldn't question Mike Young's decision making because he probably knew that like if we fight there, we win for sure. Like we can't question Mike Young for sure at this point.
Yeah, we can't question anything on Phoenix One right now. They are on fire. G2 is absolutely not. And yeah, when is it going to turn around? We don't know. Probably you were mentioning the fact for G2 specifically that they don't seem to make the correct plays, or rather they know which plays they want to make, but they can't seem to make them as correct anymore as they used to. So will it get better during Rift Rivals?
I don't know. I mean, they used to be super scrappy team, and then they started learning how to play late game, and then now they're like, oh, we'll play both styles, and now we'll pick Erect and Elise, and then we'll pick full scaling. It's like, I don't know, I think just pick one style and be practicing it right now, because I mean, I still think they can play this kind of scaling and do well, but it's when they all in on early game, it's like they're definitely not 100% early game playmaking team right now.
Yeah. And maybe this tournament serves as an even bigger wake-up call for G2, right? They're 3-3 in Europe. That wasn't really a big worry because everyone just expects G2 to do well.
It's starting to be
But
a
if
big
they lose
worry.
a bunch of games at Rift Rivals and we're a couple months away from Worlds, that's huge, right? They were redeemed at MSI, so to speak. They made it to the finals. They took a game off of SKT. And it's really easy to relax after that. You think, yeah, we're really good.
You deserve relaxing for a bit. Why not?
Yeah, but now, if you're still this far into the season and losing to a bunch of NA teams at Rift Rivals,
hey, you can't take any credit away from Phoenix One, but their biggest test is up next week as well.
Let's take away. No, I'm just kidding.
No, because they're playing Splice next week. So.
Personally, I don't mind them playing bad at this tournament, and also next week when we have to face them, because then we will obviously get the win. So personally, I'm a fan of this kind of G2 playstyle. I like it.
You're a fan of it.
Encourage it then, yeah. Keep playing
yeah, you both are like, yes.
Vested interest in this. They won the last 3 splits.
Very biased test.
Very interesting. Wow. We'll see how
at some point, if you keep losing and not playing up to the expectations everyone has, then maybe it's going to hit on their confidence. And we don't know what their confidence level is at this point. So it's exciting to see how they're going to surpass this.
Yeah, and how they're going to deal with
Phoenix One
everything.
has that confidence, though.
Phoenix One is
all-time high.
Up there. Phoenix One is on a roll. And coming up next, Fnatic and TSM, face off in one of the biggest matchups of the tournament. Don't go anywhere. I'm excited. Woo!
Pretty much full control of Mike.
Oh, leaps right into that cocoon. Now Trick laying down a bit of damage. Mike Young, where can you go? Flash out to safety, goes up, comes down, and that's going to be first blood for Trick. Now Perk's potentially in trouble. Ryu looking for the outplay. Up goes Elise. She has to come down. Kled is on the way. Oh! Now leaping up. Perk's running for his life. Shield. Mike Young with the auto. P1 now on top.
I think give up. Give up at all. Give up and let's defend mid. Let's defend mid.
Oh, kill this guy.
Kill this guy.
Oh, can we kill him?
Let's go.
Alright, nice. Alright, that's back for me.
Again, Mike Young now in trouble, knocked up, but Zig is on the way to the back line. You may be keeping your eyes on Mike Young, but you need to watch that Kled, because he's going to try to find a kill onto Mithy, but Mike Young is still alive! Ryu now on a rampage.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go.
Oh my god, hey.
Good job, guys.
Phoenix One taking down the first place seed from Europe.